Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. Super excited to come back with you this year. We decided to dive into 52 different topics around money, around finance, just to give you guys a little bit more insight and get some of your questions answered. So this is the first one for us this year diving into it, but this is going to be throughout the entire year. You're going to get the whole collection. But today, before the end of this video, you're going to know exactly why you should be budgeting, why budgeting is not currently working for you, and what you can do to actually implement something that will help your family achieve their financial foundation through budgeting. So stick with us today, and we're going to dive into budgeting. Yo, my name is Chris Muzon. My wife and I co-founded United Agency, where we're helping educate families on how to build a solid financial foundation. Our mission here is to be able to help people grow financially, and a lot of times we just don't have the information that we need, and we're not able to apply it in the proper ways according to our personal financial situation. So we just want to come this year, give you a little bit more information, and know that you could always reach out and work with us. There's always going to be an opportunity to set time on our calendar or reach out to us so we can guide you down your own financial path. But today we're going to dive into one of the topics that we hear a lot in the financial coaching space, and obviously it's a word that a lot of people are familiar with. It's the word budgeting. Some people are a fan of budgeting. Budgeting has helped them have a plan for where their money goes, and they feel really good about sticking to it. But in our experience, the majority of people are not happy with budgeting. They think of that word as a bad word, right? Oh, I gotta be on a Why? Because we think of restrictions. We think of things that we don't have, or we think of things that we can't have moving forward that we have to limit ourselves from. I'm going to free some of you today by letting you know budgeting doesn't work. And budgeting typically isn't your first step for getting your financial foundation in place or getting your finances in order. So here's how we like to explain it here at United Agency. Budgeting is technically the second step in fixing or understanding our cash flow, understanding where all of our money is going. But because we get a limited education around it, not a lot of people teach us exactly the proper ways to do it. We get lost, and then people start having these thoughts of, I can't work on a budget, budgeting doesn't work for me, I can't seem to stick to one, the money runs out at the end, right? Too much month at the end of the money. So we give you practical steps on how to do this. We actually have a resource for you. If you look in the description below, you're going to see a resource for a cash flow book, and that cash flow ebook is going to help you learn some of the stuff I'm going to talk to you about right now. But if you just want to jump ahead and get the book, go ahead and get that resource down in the description. But let's talk about budgeting. It's the second step to fixing your financial life, not your first step. The first step is actually tracking. So let's get a little financial language for you. Budgeting is a look forward. It is having a plan for your money. So that means that money has not come in. So you know how much you should get paid this month, and you are budgeting to make sure in the future, for this future month, that you know where the money's going. That's called budgeting. It's a forecast, okay? But just like in business, it's impossible to forecast numbers that we don't actually know. We don't know how much our sales was in business, or our expenses, or our labor, or any of those things. How could we forecast what we're going to do the following year? We can't. Same thing in our personal life, in our personal financial life. Before you can look forward, you have to look backwards. And looking back in our financial life is tracking. It's not budgeting. Tracking says, I'm not going to think about where I want this money going moving forward. I'm going to look back and see, where did I spend this money? Where did it go? And that is the first step before we can get a budget in place. We have to have realistic numbers. A lot of people struggle with this side because the actual proper way is to go back and take a look at the past 3 months. If you can get a good 90-day snapshot of your spending, you'll understand your habits, where all the money goes. And typically, the money is not going to the places that you think. It's not just going to your bills. It's not just going to the mortgage or the rent or your car insurance or your cell phone or the utilities or any of the subscriptions you have. It's really not just going there. That's what we call our lifestyle expenses or our fixed expenses. Actually, where your money's going It's going to the variable stuff, the miscellaneous stuff, the dining out, the groceries, the miscellaneous food that you might eat, the miscellaneous shopping and spending, Amazon, Target, Walmart, right? If you have Dollar Tree or Marshalls, or whether you go high end and you do more luxury type shopping, whether it's money you give to your family or car maintenance, right, to fix up your car, or movies and entertainment, or going out, like whatever it is, that's where all the extra money is going. So it's typically the small places where our money starts flowing out. As my wife says, she always says, small holes sink great ships. So it's the small things in our financial life. The $20 there, the $25 there, the $7 there, the $18 there. Those are the things that add up that typically are what blows our budget. Those are the little areas that if we're not aware of, we won't know how to properly forecast for them moving forward. So the first step to budgeting is actually looking back. It's tracking. Get 90 days worth of data for yourself and go in and see exactly where all the money went. Again, we have a resource for it. We'll put it down here in the description if you want to get it. We have a resource for a financial tracking sheet. Normally we want to do a coaching session with someone first before we dive into that tracking sheet so we can teach you how to use it. Because again, a lot of times in finance, we might all have a budgeting tracker or a budgeting tool that we use, but how efficient is it and how effective is it? Does it actually keep us on budget? Does it actually show us where our money's going? So normally we need a little guidance down that path. So we're more than happy, again, to do that with our resources for you. But that's the main focus. Before you start putting a budget in place, you got to look back. And once you look back and you have a good idea of the last 90 days and exactly where you spent money, here's a good thing to know. Money is controlled by our emotions and by our habits. So because you make about the same money every month, we spend about the same money every month. Because you live in the same places typically, right? Some people travel more often, but most people just, you go to the same 10, 15 stores every single month. You live in the same radius, so you spend about the same money. So when you look back over those 90 days, you're going to see some patterns. You're going to see some habits. You're going to see some things in there that's like, oh, this is what I really actually spend in dining out or on Amazon or on the kids. Once you have those numbers, then you can put a budget in place. Because all you do is you take an average. You say, okay, let's say 1 month you spent $1,200 in dining out. The next month you spent like $1,300, and the next month you spent like $1,100. So on average, that's $1,200 a month, right? Fluctuates plus or minus $100, but about $1,200. So if that is now what your habits are telling you, that's about what you spend when you couldn't be on a budget. Well, now if we want a budget, we just need to take that and bring it down a little bit. So if you think that area is excessive and you say, hey, 1,200 average is a little bit too much for food, let's bring it down to 1,000. Let's bring it down to 900. What we're not going to do is we're not going to say, I'm not eating out for this entire month. Why? Because this is not practical for our human habits. Remember, money is controlled by our emotions and our habits. So if you were to diet with food and you said, you know what? I'm going to cut out sugar for the entire month. I'm not going to eat anything with sugar in it, not going to eat any sweets, none of it. But you've been eating a ton of sugar, cartons of ice cream and all types of sweet candies. That's all you actually have been doing over the past 90 days, 180 days. You know how hard it's going to be for you to actually cut it out completely for 30 days? It's almost going to be impossible, right? That's when our willpower has to come in. But what happens? We have an emotional day. We have a day that everything doesn't go our way. We get some bad news. And what do? We binge another tub of ice cream. All it takes is one bad day and now we're back off and now we said, it didn't work. No, it's just our goals were unrealistic. So same thing for your budget. If you know that you're struggling in an area, say it's dining out, you get to a number that's an average, then you bring that average down 20% maybe. You go from 1,200, you bring it down to 1,000. Now that's a budget. Now moving forward, you know you have $1,000 a month just for dining out. It's $250 a week. Now you can actually plan what $250 a week will look like, and you'll stick to it because it's more realistic. You were doing 1,200 average, so bringing it down to 1,000 isn't going to be that much of a change in your lifestyle. If you want to be very, drastic, or you really want to make change, maybe you bring it down to 800. Again, the more you bring it down, the more willpower you're going to need. So to make it easy with your habits, bring it down a little bit. and do it incrementally. Once you can see that you go from 1,200 to 1,000 and you see 1,000 doesn't change, then maybe you go to 900 and you try a month with 900 and then you try another month with 900. And then that third month, maybe you go down to 800 because now you're changing your habits. That's how we stick to a budget, ladies and gentlemen. We stick to a budget by slowly identifying 2 to 4 different places in our financial life that we are leaking money, that we need to say, hey, let's just pull it back 20%. So if you find $100, $200, $300 in 3 or 4 different categories in your financial life, you might have just found an extra $500, $700. And because we found that amount in our spending, now it can go to the right places. It can go to saving more. It can go to paying off debt. It can go to some other areas. So in essence, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to start budgeting, you actually have to look back first. We're not going to start with a budget. We're going to start with tracking so you can know your habits. And if you don't know your habits, you'll never be able to get on a budget. So this is why budgeting doesn't work for most people. But we're going to be able to help you here at United Agency. Again, there's in the description, there's some resources down there for you to go take a look at that could help you start with tracking. So then this year you can actually start your budgeting properly so that it's something that you can actually stick to. As always, ladies and gentlemen, we always want to make sure we're a resource for you to get your financial questions answered. So feel free to reach out at any point in time to schedule time with us so we can have more of these financial conversations with you. You don't have to go down your financial journey alone. You have people here that can guide you, assist you, and help you down the path. And we do it all complimentary to you, so you don't have to worry about paying us anything. We just want to make sure that you get to where you need to go financially. So again, until next time, we'll talk to you soon. Take care.